Okay, everybody, it says that we are live on YouTube streaming the November 2020 board meeting. President Golick, you have the gavel.
Thanks. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:32. Amy, will you please take the roll?
Yes. Hope?
Yes.
On?
Yes.
Nancy? Hi, Nancy.
She's trying really hard.
Yeah. Can I?
Let's go ahead.
Does that record you?
Nancy, your audio is real quiet. I noticed that earlier.
Oh, it's only because my headset is, on my head. For my previous meeting where I was a silent observer. That won't be today. Okay, let's get this party started.
Josh?
Here.
Michelle?
Here.
Vasa? Ashley?
Here.
Shannon?
Here.
And Jed. You have a quorum.
Okay, just real fast before we get to celebrations, I'm just going to take care of some quick business. So this meeting tonight is being held in accordance with Executive Order N29-20, which authorizes local legislative bodies like the Westlake Charter School Board of Directors to hold public meetings via teleconference and to make public meetings accessible telephonically or otherwise electronically to all members of the public. Members are encouraged to participate tonight and observe our meeting as it goes along. Further instructions on how to provide public comment are at the end of our agenda online, but a real simple way to do it is to send an email to admin@westlakecharter.com and include in the subject line the item in which you want to make a comment, and please keep that to 250 words. We'll make every effort to read it into the minutes as we do the item itself, but if comments are received after, they will still be included, just they won't be read out loud. So with that, let's go ahead and kick off celebrations. I'll go first. So I'd like to celebrate, yesterday was Veterans Day. So I'd like to take this opportunity to celebrate both my grandfathers, my husband's grandparents who served, as well as Amber Husted, who is on the our line today. Just thank you for your service and thank them for their service. We're served by some very proud people, and brave people. So thank you. How do we want to? I guess Nancy.
Sorry. No, it's okay. I just need to find the right mouse, and then I have a dog who's trying to get on my lap, but he won't jump up, and all those things. So it has been a week and 2 days since the election, and in last week it seems like way longer than that, but it hasn't been. So a week and 2 days ago, I worked as a poll worker at our local polls over at the Asian Pacific Islander Education Association, anyway, at a pop-up, and it was amazing. It truly was just such a great experience. For those of you who've never done it, I do absolutely encourage you to do so. It was seeing democracy in action, and it was so great. I mean, I can't even find the right adjectives because it was so cool. So many people who were first-time voters and people who were, and my sister included, who's 67 years old and has been a naturalized citizen since 1975, had never voted until this election. People who were nervous and all these things, and they got it done, and so appreciative of the process, and everybody, people like Hope, who put so much time and effort into our elections, and it is amazing. So anyway, it's a week and 2 days old, but still would like to celebrate it because it was just so great.
Thanks, Nance. I'm just looking forward to the time where we actually have everything counted.
Yes.
I mean, with the vote center you worked at, right? I totally appreciate it. It's just so hard, right, to get all those votes in. And this turnout, I think we're in the 80%.
Yes, it was like 80% for Sac County, which is pretty stunning and the best ever. And I've been in that vote center before because that's my own polling location. I've been there at noon on election day, and I might have been like number 10 or 11 on the list. People started getting there at 7 o'clock when the polls opened, and they were there until 8:30. And we were there till 8:30. It was a really long day, but it was constant. Everybody was busy all the time, and so it was just so awesome to see people invested and there and taking the time. Just people who said that they didn't, they weren't getting paid for it, which is amazing to me that still happens. But people who really were invested in not just this election, but wanting to make sure that their voices were heard. So it was super cool. And absolutely, again, if you haven't done it before, encourage all of you to do that. Because democracy.
And Matthew knows we're always asking.
I know. And they should. I mean, there's really no reason, and it's so great. So great.
So next is Ashley, and I'll say hi to your puppy, and then Josh.
Oh my gosh, I mean, I guess not my celebration, but all these dogs, COVID dogs, who take advantage of not being allowed on the bed, but I can't make them get off 4,000 times in the day. So she's like, oh yeah, you're on the computer. Totally breaking the rules, Mom, and I know you're not going to do anything about it. I saw yours too, Shannon. Probably maybe similar. I was wondering. My celebration, I've given up, and she knows it. My celebration is I want to just echo hope. Amber spoke to the fifth graders, and she happened to be speaking to the fifth graders during my lunchtime, so I kept being like this little fly on the wall. But just thank you, Amber, for doing that and speaking about your experience. We have Navy in our family, along with all the other branches, cousins, uncles, grandparents, and my boys know the stories of their family, but it reinvigorated the questions and the conversation. And he made this really cool naval shield for his Uncle Brian that I had to go send off. And there was just a lot of pride around going into that day. So thank you for that, Amber. And then I just want to celebrate our admin team. I think we all celebrate them all the time, but as this thing continues longer than it ever was anticipated, or maybe anticipated, their ability to lean in and listen and adjust to the needs of the staff is just unfounded. And I don't say that without data. I'm on several different teacher groups on the different edu-spheres between Twitter and Facebook. And I've been seeing, like, how does your staff, how does your admin celebrate staff looking for ideas? Just different things. How are they helping you cope? And of course, I chime in with a giant list from Westlake and give ideas. And at every corner, they're like, where do you work? Is kind of the response. Or we got a cookie. And cookies are great, but if that's all that's been done in all of these months, that's not enough. So just our admin has really changed course a lot recently, and said, we're going to go this. Oh, okay, that's too much. Well, we will adjust. And between that and celebrating, and finding ways to be Westlake in this weird Westlake time, is really, truly special. And we know that, but it's very evident when you go out and look elsewhere. So.
Thanks, Ashley. Josh, and then Shannon.
Well, I was also going to celebrate Amber today. I got my phone call from John and Amber not that long ago, and it just, reminded me all the things that continue to be affected. And, a lot of the stuff that Amber and her WAVE team do to raise money for the school you can list a number of things, and here they are still hitting it out of the park. So I just wanted to say thank you and cheer you on, and keep doing what you're doing, Amber. We appreciate it.
Just to chime in real fast, I know it's so hard, Josh. It hit me today how much I miss chili cook-off. And I feel like, and I know that's not specifically a wave event, Amber, I'm sorry, but like all the events, like the list of things we haven't been able to do is like, it's just, yes. So
this was the week for it too. As soon as it turned cold, this was chili week.
Yeah, it's been a lot, and I think you're absolutely right. The Wave team is also adjusted in such a tremendous way. Amy, are you going to play? You're not next. I just wanted Shannon and then Amy if Amy's playing. Okay. Sorry, I am all over the place.
Well, so I will also celebrate an aspect of the election that lots of transit won big across the country, including in the Bay Area. The Caltrain sales tax measure passed to basically be able to keep Caltrain running, especially because of the economic hits of the pandemic. And so just made me really hopeful that even in a time when ridership is super down, no one trusts shared anything, and we're all struggling economically, that people still voted for taxing themselves for better public transportation and bikes and kind of lower carbon modes, which was very encouraging to me, including like something in the billions in the city of Austin for transit and bike lanes, which is like the entire state of California budget. So in a few years, everyone, take a trip to Austin. It's probably going to have some rad transit and biking. But anyway, so just want to celebrate democracy in action for transit.
Thanks, Shannon. Amy, and then Michelle.
I will celebrate something that we do at Westlake. I don't know if other schools do it, but we do, and it's really cool, and it's called the Gift of Time. And it kind of hits at different times of the year. It used to be something that the principal did specifically, and this year we've kind of just organically have stretched it out. So I even get to play and offer the gift of times to some of the teachers. And we did a pumpkin patch for them last week, and a bunch of teachers drew a pumpkin. They got to pick a pumpkin. On the bottom was their prize, and gift of time was on a couple of them. And so I got to spend some time with Miss Patel's kindergarten class, which is always one of my favorite things to do. Kinder is just amazing. But I also got to hang out with Archer, Amber's son, and we were doing Kid President, and he was dancing with me, and then we were doing Simon Says, and he was doing Simon Says, and it's just, this is really a hard time for all of us adults who love these kids like they're our own. And so for me, getting to see them in any way that I can is super special to me. And it was just a great week when I got to hang out with two groups of amazingly fun kids. So gift of time is my celebration.
Woohoo. I know, I miss a lot. Michelle and then Sean.
I'm going to celebrate teachers today. It's been really awesome that teachers have been kind of giving additional time after school is over so that the kids can enter into these chat rooms and hang out and have some sense of normalcy. And my kids have come running in after school saying, like, can I stay on with my friends? And I'm like, no, is there an adult? And they're like, yeah, my teacher's there. And so I know that they're going above and beyond just after the school day has ended, which as a person who does not teach kids all day, that sounds like a lot. And so it's really appreciated, and it's giving the kids a sense of like something to look forward to at the end of the day. It feels like like you're after school hanging out with your friends. And then I also heard them talking about like just different topics with their teachers after school and just having conversations. And it feels like a great check-in that feels light and easy. And it's just been really interesting to I've been eavesdropping, don't tell my kids, but it's just been interesting to kind of listen in and see where they go. And I just really appreciate just that extra mile that our teachers are going, especially when I can imagine that this is already a tough time for them too.
So you don't think your kids are listening to the meeting? I had to. Once it's on the internet, right? It's always on the internet. Sean and then Amber, if you want to play.
Okay, so I'll celebrate a different aspect of the election, no matter what you think of the political results. Maybe this result is a good result. It got one of my kiddos super involved, and he's like asking me about the different measures in Sacramento, and so I was showing him the voter guide and how, you know, you could read about, you know, these people say that they want this measure and this is the rebuttal, but then here's the thing from the people who don't want it and the rebuttal from the people who do. And he's like, wow, that's really cool, and sits down and reads all about it. So civic engagement from a 16-year-old.
And from an election staff person who helps write those things, you have made my day because someone read them. And someone who's learning a lot from it and will take it forward because you're building a lifelong voter. So it means more than I can say.
I've got 2 kids who will be able to vote in the next presidential election, which kind of freaks me out a tiny little bit, but you know.
No, we had that moment too. In our house when we realized that my kiddo will also be voting in the next election. So nothing makes you feel older faster. Amber, and then Steve, if he's interested.
Sure. So similar to Michelle, I think I've been really impressed with the ways that our teachers are going above and beyond. In the weekly that's coming up this weekend, there was a little piece about 7th grade humanities and how they're doing reading kind of check-ins and reading conferences. And then today, my 7th grader came and told me about his reading conference. And he just had such a great time talking about books. And they also just talked about other things that interest them. And it's just a great way for the teachers to engage and then check in with the kids and see where they're at. So we just appreciate all of those extras that our teachers are doing right now.
Thanks, Amber. Steve, and then John, you're my closer. And if I missed anyone, I'm sorry, but I've been doing this weird diamond X pattern. Oh, good. You replaced John on my screen, so it was perfect.
Oh, there you go.
I did that on purpose.
I'm actually going to follow in your footsteps and just say thank you to Amber for your service to our country, and thank you to all the veterans who are out there as well. My father is a veteran, and my father-in-law is a veteran as well. So, again, I just want to say thank you to all the veterans who are out there.
Thanks, Steve. And then our big closer.
Okay, well, gosh, there's so many things to celebrate locally at the school, but I'm going to take it, I think, to the federal level like some of you did, and it is this. In the spirit of, reflection, action, transformation, the work that we've been doing in our own school, trying to find mirrors, windows, and sliding doors where our children can see themselves represented in literature and imagine themselves in situations that were previously unimaginable. On just the other night, I got to watch my amazing, brilliant wife and my 9-year-old daughter sit on the couch and watch Vice President-elect, give a speech. And I think my daughter looked at that screen as a bit of an opportunity and said, well, look at that. We have a woman who's reached this level, and my wife and my daughter had this moment, and as a father, I got to watch that moment, and I thought, man, I am so glad that I lived to see that moment during my lifetime. So, not to be political, I won't tell you which way I voted, but that moment, to me, meant something, because it meant something to my daughter. So, it was a real good celebration in my house.
I'm loving all these future voters. They just all make my day. And future leaders, right? Because from learning about the civic opportunity leads and grows leaders, which is tremendous for stewardship. I even tied in a core value. So that brings us to board comments for items that aren't otherwise on the agenda that board members wanted to raise tonight. Does anyone have anything they wish to bring up? I'm seeing shaking heads. So that will take us to public comment. John, do we have any? We do have one. Okay, perfect. Go for it.
We do have one here. It is from Mrs. Johnson. It says, I want to shout out appreciation for my children's teachers. Their excellence fills me with gratitude. Distance learning is tough for us all, yet they persevere with joyfulness. Beyond their energy, skill, and dedication, their compassion for each student is heartwarming. They are appreciated every day. And that means you, Mr. Lockteff, and Mrs. Patel, as well as Mrs. Mixitz, Mr. Eichley, Ms. Vilanowith, Ms. Gately, Ms. Rojo, and all the other hardworking members of Westlake's teaching team. They are the best. Signed, Mrs. Johnson. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Amy Wells, I'll forward this to you.
Thank you.
Excellent use of the core values, which I love. So not only do I love the message, I love all of the message. And we just have the one right now, John.
That is correct. I'll refresh the inbox, but I'm pretty sure that's the only one. It's a little slow.
It's always how it works.
Yeah, right when you're live streaming on YouTube. That looks to be the only public comment. Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. I mean, we'll check again throughout the night so people still who are watching have the opportunity to comment if they want to. That brings us to the wave report and Amber.
Hi.
Hi.
So things are good. I think as good as can be expected. We had a great coffee talk this week where we talked about just a lot of upcoming stuff like the high school. We talked about reopening. We talked about some committees that WAVE is forming, and we have had several volunteers stepping into some of those open positions, which kind of leads me to one of my biggest celebrations in the last couple of weeks is that parents want to volunteer. And so when we posted these volunteer opportunities, like putting together the Olympic triathlon kits, I had people reach out because the sign up filled up too quickly and they didn't get a spot. And then we had parents sitting in front of the school for hours collecting in-person donations. And so parents are excited to volunteer again, and we're so thankful that they are volunteering and they're continuing on with our mission. So it's been really great to see parents out there again, really, and of course they missed it. So it's been really fun to hear from them as well. And then OT, I mean, that's really about what we've been working on. We are at, I have 20, I just picked up 20 more donations at 6 o'clock from the school. And so we're at, we're close to 27,000 without entering these. I think it's going really well. And we're just thankful for our community to continue donating and supporting our school. That's it.
Thank you, Amber. Shannon with Charter Impact.
Yeah, so we started our goals discussion and realized that we still have a lot more work to do to refine what we meant by that. So then we started kind of talking about what outcomes for the impact committee would look like. And so basically our next step is just a good reminder, John and I, that we are supposed to meet separately before the next impact meeting to kind of just put some sloppy goals down so that the rest of the committee can respond to that and we can start crafting what the actual future of this committee looks like given kind of our new tasks around anti-racism work and some other diversity and equity missions that we would like to accomplish. So so that is our next step.
Perfect. Thanks, Shannon. Nancy in development.
So we, the development team met, 3 weeks ago, a month ago. It's been a little bit, but we had a super productive meeting. We went through and hopefully everybody will be on the lookout fairly soon to review and see the debut of our Westlake Charter Explorer partner site. Team members have been working on some feature Explorer partners, and the website looks beautiful. Thanks so much to Ashley and John, who worked so tirelessly to get all the feedback into our partner site. Our team also went through and solidified our goals for the 2021. Is that right? 2021 school year. And so we're really excited about continuing our mission of being able to reach out and develop partnerships with people in our community and beyond. And we started just kind of touching on our first fundraising initiative, which again you'll all be hearing about again soon. But I think Josh at the last meeting was able to give everybody a little bit of an update about what we'll be fundraising for. Our first high school explorers being able to take a Southern California trip to the Museum of Tolerance and be able to visit some college campuses. So it's kind of a big undertaking, but we're so committed to doing this for the kids and trying to help fund those efforts. So busy time for us, and we will continue to discuss those things at our upcoming meeting next week.
Thanks, Nancy. Yeah, all just, for those who are interested, all the committees meet next week. So, right? Yes, I think so. All the governance meet next week. So 3 to 4. So there's lots of opportunities to do community work. Sean and finance.
The whole microphone button kept running away from me. Okay, so as usual, long meeting, short update. I don't know why that's always the case, but we met, we got our update from Steve as usual, and we started or continued, I don't remember, I think it's continued, our discussion of certificated comp, looking at updated matrices. And as Hope just said, we meet again next week, which is weird.
Blame Thanksgiving. It's all Thanksgiving's fault. October, for development, was late because of fall break, or something shifted because of fall break, and now we're all forward, and we'll be forward the next 2 months because we're also forward because of Christmas, or the holiday break. So thanks, Sean. There was no governance meeting tonight, so no update, which brings us to the executive director report.
Now you see it, Sean. It was running away. I was trying to click on it. It ran away. I was also looking to see if any other comments. No other comments. Well, hi everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. We got some quick updates and strategic actions, and then I have a report later on in the show where we'll talk about reopening schools. Obviously, I'll start off with some celebrations. As soon as I can get my slides rolling here. There we go. All right. Well, we'll start with some celebrations, and then we'll dive in. I only have one slide for updates and one slide for strategic actions. Just trying to capture, what's going on this particular time. It seems like the busier we are, the less slides I have. Celebrations. I just want to shout out this little. I tweeted this out. I called it innovation everywhere. So I would see this type of structure, a cardboard box cut out with a cell phone on top of it, a hole in the top of the box, making the cell phone into basically a document camera connected to the computer. I would totally see that at a tech conference that I present at. One of my nerdy tech friends out there in the ed tech world. I would totally expect this type of behavior. But Patel, who built that?
Is this Jovi?
This is Jovi. Our instructional aide is building the nerdiest ed tech solution known to man, and she's not a certificated teacher, an administrator, a coach, a tech director. She's an instructional aide at Westlake Charter School. We have the greatest staff imaginable because from every level of the organization, people are innovating and solving problems. If you don't really get what I'm talking about there, that cell phone camera is facing down into the box so Jovi can write on the whiteboard, and it displays like a document camera right onto the screen as she works with kids one-on-one or in small groups. It is just phenomenal. It's so great to see innovation everywhere. I also like to give you an update. We at the board, we talked about reflection, action, transformation. We talked about mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. We also talked about it at Coffee Talk, and we talked about it in depth with our staff. We gave our staff some money to start doing the work to buy some of the books that are more reflective of our incredibly diverse community. But also we started to see books floating in from parents, because parents who watched the Coffee Talk and the board meeting said, oh, I'd like to donate a book that represents the culture of my family. And so we're seeing books flood in, and it just warms my heart. Thank you, families. Thank you, everybody, for getting involved in this work, right? It takes all of us to do it, and this is just the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. But thank you for diving in. It's so heartwarming. this is one of my role model days. One of my favorites, right? We got Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and we got a Starbucks barista down there, right? This is just so much fun, you know. And even, you know, there's Mrs. Weiner who gets in on all the action. She's just amazing. All of our teachers are great. So role model day was a big success. You know, here it is, the 13th annual Westlake Charter School Olympic Triathlon. This could have been skipped this year. It was talked about that, like, are we going to pull this off? And I watched the OT video that got posted tonight, and it was like, I don't know that we'll ever go back to doing it a different way, because the Olympic Triathlon video is amazing. Everybody watch it. Amber Husted crushes it in this video. Fundraising is looking great. I never imagined that we would reach the level that we're at right now in this particular climate and year that we're in. And to think that 900 little Ziploc bags were filled with little things that have all now gone home, and kids are going to be able to, as Patel, that kids are going to be able to have a great day tomorrow and engage in art project, Spanish games, and a PE obstacle course, all from home. Way to go, Westlake. It's just so epic. Westlake Charter High School, not sure you heard of that joint. It's doing some fun stuff. Its videos are rocking. But the reason we have this slide up here tonight is because not only can you find our videos and our information about Westlake Charter High School right here at bit.ly/WCS videos, you can also now find it on the WCHS tab of our westlakecharter.com website. So we have now got our own high school tab on our website. So way to go. You are a board member of a real K-12 because you got a website that makes it official. And then this celebration is Veterans Day. And there were so many wonderful people who got involved in Veterans Day. But here is a phenomenal little picture of Amber Husted speaking to some 5th grade students. We've all heard her name several times tonight, but she deserves all the accolades that she receives. Not only is she a veteran, and we're so thankful for her, not only is she the president of our WAVE group and our lead volunteer, she really was a phenomenal speaker for the kids. I heard from the teacher of this classroom what a wonderful job that Ms. Husted did. And I'd also like to shout out other veterans who also spoke. We know that Sergeant Grimaldi, who is Mrs. Grimaldi's son, also spoke to our 5th grade classes. So really nice to see that be a part of our learning day at Westlake Charter School. And thank you, Ms. Husted, and everybody who was part of that.
Hey, John, real fast,
yes.
from far away. Archer is definitely yours. Not that there was ever any doubt, but it was so funny looking at his little picture. Because it's smaller on my screen, Amber. I just see Archer. I don't know why. I guess I have the wrong kid. I can't tell by his face. I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Okay. Yeah, good stuff. Well, hey, let's take a look at some updates of kind of 3 little sections. This one's super quick. I just thought it was interesting. You know, as a part of our charter, it's important that we are able to produce some type of data that tells our authorizer that our students are performing at some levels that are appropriate. Well, we typically use NWEA, but we didn't use NWEA this year because we're all in distance learning. And then they said, oh, we're not going to do CASP. We thought, if we don't have NWEA, we don't have CASP. We need some type of data. Well, it looks like the California Department of Education has decided to produce a shortened version of CASP this year, which they haven't even figured out what that looks like yet. I thought I would tell you that we will be engaging in state testing this year. I can hear the echoes of cheers around the community right now from our children. No, that was boos. That's just Josh and I. Okay. Anyway, hey, I'm sure we'll do great. Our kids are showing progress, and I'm excited to see what happens there. I want to talk a little about lottery outreach because it's that time of year. By the time we see each other again, lottery will be open. Your high school lottery will be open by the time we see each other again. For those of you who've been on this board for a long, long time and have been waiting for this moment has arrived. Unbelievable. Hey, we're doing what we do. We are doing flyers and posters, social media, and magazine. Lots of what you've already seen in the past. But for the high school, we're going to do a couple of extra things. You know, this is quite an effort for the business team and the ops team. Getting flyers out in the community is already a big task, but during COVID, it's an even larger task. Making sure that we have an up-to-date mailing list so the mailers go out, the postcards go out. Also, you know, our team is building social media targeted posts, you know, scheduling them out in advance, and then getting in advertisements in N Magazine, on the header of the Buzz, the Natomas Buzz. So lots going on there for our outreach piece. We think it's definitely worth doing. We think it definitely helps. You actually will notice that for the first time, I've been in Natomas for a long time, and Amy, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the first time that I've ever seen NP3 advertise. So NP3 is advertising their lottery open, which is really interesting. I've never seen that before. And I wonder if it's because there's a new game in town. Westlake Charter High School is coming to town. I wonder if that creates a little competition. So, hey, healthy competition among friends is probably good. But I think it's interesting. We've been advertising for quite some time. Now, for our high school marketing, and really this is Mrs. Batten will come out and tell you all about this game plan, but really a robust targeted marketing campaign because we know enrollment matters. So, targeted postcards, targeted high school advertising for that 9th grade slot. We're going to refresh our Sacramento News and Review literature. We have this one here that we've had for several years, but we're working with Sac News and Review now to update that so it includes our entire K-12 program. Very excited about that. Some targeted pieces in Facebook, Instagram, things like that. Also, join Westlake.com. That opens up for kindergarten through 9th grade, which is I typed K9. I don't know why I thought that was funny because there's 3 dogs on the screen right now, maybe. We're open K9 on December 1st. So there you go, you guys. Just a couple of weeks, and we are enrolling or taking applications for our 9th grade class. I think that's definitely a worthy celebration. I want to talk a little about small cohorts and campus reopening, right? So, we are prepped to increase our small cohorts when ready. We actually, a week ago, thought we were going to be making phone calls this week saying, hey, we've targeted your student to come in for some extra support. It looks like they may be needing some extra support to convert some learning loss during this time of distance learning. However, we have just pushed pause for a moment, and we're reevaluating based on the escalating COVID rate in the community. We just want to make sure we have all our ducks in a row. It was one thing stepping in while it was red, but now that the county numbers are higher than they've been at any time during the school year this year, we just want to make sure that we're taking the appropriate steps forward. Having said that, though, all the plans are in place to expand that program, meaning we already have some kids coming on and getting targeted support. We're ready to bring more on and give more targeted support. So excited about that, but we'll move cautiously because health and safety is our number one, not just for the kids, but for the staff and our entire community as well. And then reopening plans are ready for publication. Maybe you saw, we slipped it in late today, the reopening guidelines. It's a brand new document that we've been working on since the last board meeting, and it's going out in the Westlake Weekly this weekend. And those are our plans for reopening. We think that they're well put together. As Ashley, I think, alluded to, it's been a very collaborative process with our teaching staff, iteratively working through these plans for the last several weeks. We're very proud of them. We're ready for them. And I'll talk more about that in my reopening update. But the plans are in place. And if the county were red tomorrow, we'd be able to move through our steps pretty well. So those are the updates. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns regarding updates? No? Just a couple of strategic actions. I love the virtual coffee talk up there. I should have been on a celebration slide. We had a great coffee talk this week, by the way. That is a strategic action that I'll call out today. That it's part of our communication strategy. But boy, I tell you what, like Husted and Caillou are getting so good at being on screen and like improv and just, then in comes the special guest. Melissa Grunholtz showed up out of nowhere. M. Batten came in. It was just a great time at the coffee talk. Lots of feedback from our community. Strategic actions. I just want to talk a little bit about high school development. I know Emily comes out and gives some amazing updates about program and SEL, and she's going to talk facilities tonight. But I just want you to visualize what's also happening strategically, simultaneously, while one team is over here working on these parsons and plans, and that we're running the entire school in distance learning and COVID and making plans to reopen. We're also continually working on the FUA. I want to talk about that tonight openly. I want to talk about it a little bit in closed session, but we are in negotiations on a facility use agreement, but we're also leaving no stone unturned. I mean, if you know Steve Corvink I don't know if that man sleeps. I mean, we are just looking at every angle of every piece of property, every potential opening in Natomas 24/7. So that work is happening literally every single day while we're managing our current campus in a COVID crisis. The program development, it is beautifully presented at these meetings by Mrs. Batten, but you got to know that every day she, Mrs. Sargent, Mrs. Ike, Mrs. Kayau, Mrs. Jackson, I mean, that whole admin team are pulling in every direction. Every single little piece of these programs that you're seeing at a 40,000 foot level, they're at the granular level, making sure that these things are able to really manifest in particular ways. I mean, you'd be blown away by the number of like flow charts that each part of the program has. Like, okay, well, what if a kid enters math here, but like doesn't do well in a course, it escalates here, but needs to, like every scenario. So the work is really deep. It's really rich. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing. And then this marketing and recruiting piece is 100% front of mind for students, but also for faculty, right? For staff and teachers. So there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. So I just kind of wanted to give you a view of like the duck feet beneath the water. Like it may look like, oh man, this is going really well. You know, we got this, right? But underneath the water, everybody in this building is working on that high school development piece along with running the school. And so very proud of the whole team and the work that they're doing. I wanted you to know about that. Reopening school, you're going to hear a little bit about tonight, but I just want to say that when we talk about reopening school, I'm going to focus mainly on the reopening plans, but I want to talk a little bit today just about the process that you may not be aware of. And again, Mrs. Patel alluded to it. There are some places where, you know, I don't know, a small group of people might go into a room, come up with all the plans, come out with the plans and say, here they are, you know, love it or leave it. But here at Westlake, it is a very collaborative process. I'm really impressed with the engagement level. Like even the guidebook that you will read tonight in your packet, the entire leadership team, you know, 22 teachers had eyes on that thing and gave comments and said, hey, we'll cut that, change this, what about this? And so it's this very shared leadership collaborative process. And I think it's a little slower and it's a little messier and I think it's a little harder. But I think it now, when we're able to execute together. And I think that's one thing Westlake does well. And I just wanted, again, like the duck's feet beneath the water, one of the things that makes Westlake work is that we work together. You know, the staff preparation that has gone into this and is going into this plan is paramount, right? Because we can't open the school if we can't really do it together all on one page. So staff members, like literally the PBIS team, the DNA team, they're writing memos that are becoming appendices to the guidebook itself. And so here you have this place where staff are designing what is going to be implemented. They're designing almost their own preparation. And then the amount of communications that we put out. I do see other organizations willing to put out an email midweek on a Wednesday and update the community. And I love that. We don't do that. We're a little more methodical about the way we do the communications, but I don't think we're slacking on communications. I mean, we got videos and we got the Westlake Weekly every week. And we're, you know, even the coffee talk, having the slides and the presentations in there. I just want to shout out that a lot of the work we're doing around the preparation for the reopening of schools is communications work and making sure we're bringing the community along with us each step of the way and bringing our teaching staff and our classified along with us each step of the way. And we're hoping we're able to do that for our board as well. So I just think that's a really big piece for us to consider that's going on strategically. Patel?
Maybe. I just want to celebrate that. I think, you know, in a time of like unknowns and new things are thrown at you unexpectedly all the time, our parents are feeling that. And I know I had a conversation, it was a week where a lot of the other schools were like, surprise, here's communication just a few weeks ago. And I was with some parent friends that are all parents at this school, and I was like, oh no, we're definitely talking and planning, but we committed to communicating this day, and I don't foresee us changing because we want our families to know what to expect and to not be on pins and needles worried that there's going to be an unknown message of change
Yeah.
And so I think that we're going to stick to that. And we did. And I just think expectations, we know how crucial they are for our kiddos, but I think that that is helping lower the stress filter for some of our families in ways they might not recognize. So I just want to call that out and celebrate it. And also, like, you know, shout it out to families that are listening. Like, hey, you know, if you know you're going to be communicated on this day, you don't have to worry that you're going to get 14 monkey wrenches in between that day. But I think I've seen that effective filter lower from a lot of people. And I just think it's something we should be proud of for our organization.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I agreed. It's interesting. So last board meeting, we said we would communicate on November 1st, November 15th. And we're right on target for 2 big communications and all. We'll talk more about that later, but yeah, I think staying consistent and reliable are really part of the brand. So I just want to talk, hey, we don't know when we're reopening, right? If anybody's waiting for that big unveil, we're in purple. We don't know how long we're going to be in purple. We'll talk about that later. But I did want to talk about the continued supports that we're offering in distance learning to make sure that we are still focused on doing a really good job at wherever we are. And we are continuing to offer base to our families. We have not reached capacity yet. And so we continue to offer scholarships and say, hey, any kid we come across who needs a place to connect, we're pulling kids in. Mrs. Wells is really one of the best people for that. She finds a student in need and says, hey, you want to go to base? And we just really appreciate that piece. You know, our teachers, I think Mrs. Gibbons mentioned the after-school piece, but, you know, the after-school piece is part academic, but it's part social-emotional. So here's these office hours, and kids are just hanging out under the supervision of a teacher. Well, that hanging out under the supervision of a teacher meets our mission of you know, meeting kids social-emotionally as well. I mean, Mr. Eichley's got kids after school play video games during his office hour, but here's kids playing video games together under the watchful eye of a teacher. He might be playing with them, actually. But like, look at the SEL. These kids are getting connected through office hours, and I'm like, hey, celebrate that, because if office hours were just for math worksheets, then we'd be missing out on this great component that Mrs. Gibbons and all children and all of our kids are experiencing. So we have the virtual learning lab that's still rocking by referral, by teacher referral, parent referral. And this commitment to small group work that we're seeing throughout the organization, that it's not just you come to class and get a sit and get deliver, that there's collaboration is happening. Remember, that is a part of our purposeful design to increase the social emotional impact on our kids. And so I just think those pieces are all really good. Now, here's some outcomes that we can point to. I told you we didn't do NWEA this year, but here's some outcomes. We take attendance every day. You know that we base our attendance on 97%, and we squeaked by. Last year we fell just short of it. We may have hit it if we hadn't shut down in March, but we are rocking the highest attendance we've ever had. Which you may think, well, kids are at home, but 98.5% attendance. I mean, that would yield, I think, $150,000 more dollars in ADA than we did at 97%. Steve can correct me if I'm wrong, but like, that is a real acknowledgement of what we're doing with our community. I've talked to lots of administrators that have well below their normal attendance rate. Westlake Charter School has above, and significantly above. I mean, the difference between 97 and once you get to the top margin, you know, squeezing out an extra 1.5% is significant when there's only 3% left on the dial. So we have high attendance rates. And speaking with teachers and talking about benchmarks, you know, as we're starting to fill out report cards and coming up on Parent Conference Week, we are seeing academic growth. And I got to tell you, like, our teachers are so hard on themselves. They're like, we want to see more growth. But I'm talking to them and I'm saying, but are you seeing growth? They're like, absolutely. They start to show me. I'm going, my goodness, look, you guys, we're making progress. Is there learning loss? Yes. Is this regular school? No. But in the new normal, are we doing excellent work? Absolutely. And it's showing in both the engagement and in the academics. And I think on that SEL piece, as we talked about before, our kids know that they can come to school and connect with other children and adults, and that's really important. So those are my strategic actions that I wanted to give you tonight. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns on those? All right, friends. Well, back to you, Hope. I will come back for my presentation in just a bit.
Yeah, now we hit that strange interruption. That's the word I'm looking for.
Intermission.
From your presentations. Did we by chance receive any public comments before I move on to the consent agenda?
I'm gonna refresh. No. No new comments.
Perfect. Okay, so for the consent agenda, we have 2 items on the agenda for this evening. Do any board members have questions on them, or is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve consent agenda items A and B.
Thank you, Nancy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
You two always
I know. I feel like I snuck in and was able to get the first. I don't know how that happened because it's usually Josh and Ashley who are
I hit the
battling
wrong
it out.
button.
Oh, that's what I needed for the win.
Got it. So we have a motion by Nancy and a second by Josh for our only action item tonight. So you really won, Nancy. Amy, will you please call the vote?
Yes. Hope,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes. Actually, can I just say that I was able to watch the meeting, and so therefore I feel like I can very definitively approve the minutes as well. So I was very excited about that.
That's true. You never would have been able to in like old world.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
In the new world, it's a yes for both.
okay.
Sorry.
Josh,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes.
Shannon.
Yeah.
We're good.
I kind of feel like one of us need to tell Vasa and Jed though that they can now watch the meeting and be fully caught up for our next one. I mean, Nancy, you hit on something.
Just
Like you did. You raised the bar on what it means to be a board member at Westlake Charter School tonight. So
Right.
you're now tasked with telling the 2 of them they need to watch it. Every
No
good thing.
pressure, Vasa and Jed.
Okay, with
That
that,
was a long meeting too, so kudos, Nancy.
It was a long meeting. Not gonna lie.
right? It's not like it was short,
No,
but
it was not.
I've learned as we've talked last meeting, which you heard, I can never ever call the length of one of our Westlake Charter School Board meetings. It is a losing battle for me to try to guess.
I'm pretty sure I asked you too prior because it was our 25th wedding anniversary and I couldn't decide. And you're like, yeah, there's only a couple things on it. Yeah.
I still said 2 hours though, for the record. It was 3 in the end, but at least
Right.
Declining return. Speaking of declining returns, hey John, receiving the reopening plan. We went back to purple, decline. It worked in my mind. I'm having a rough time tonight. I'm firing for all members out in the public that are watching. This happens sometimes. All yours, John.
No, please continue. You're doing great.
I'm obviously not, but hey, we all have days like that. And
I've
that's
been
okay.
introduced a lot of ways. This is my first as a declining return, but I'll take it. But I did get the COVID declining. I get it. I got it. It was just solid.
It wasn't about you. You were amazing. It had nothing to do with anything Westlake is doing, and everything. I'm getting these breaking newses, right? While this meeting is happening, and like first, California succeeded. We're only the 2nd state, right, to have 1 million positives, and then Sac County's hit 2 new records today, and so it just was feeding into sometimes raising the bar is the wrong thing to do.
Agreed. Well, on that note, I mean, you kind of gave away the punchline. I don't know if you've heard, but the case rate in Sacramento County is rising. And we're going to talk about reopening campus. I try to stay away from reopening school because, like I've said before, it's reopening campus, not so much school like we know it before. But we'll talk reopening campus. We'll talk reopening school. I'll try if you've got access to the guidebook, so I'll walk through it, but not get too down to the details. I would like to hear your comments and thoughts on some of the timeline pieces, but we'll dive in. Last time we were together, this was the board slide. I said, hey, between the October board meeting and the November board meeting. We're going to finalize our plans and publish them by November 1st, communication, and November 15th, our finalized production. So we're right on time for that. We are following the timeline. November 1st, we sent out 2 videos. One was really based on instruction. One was kind of based on the, the campus operations, informative videos, and whether or not we open tomorrow or 3 months from tomorrow, they are going to be relevant information. So we'll keep those around. November 1st was that communication. November 15th, now there's a 26-page guidebook that details out what I think families need to know, like arrival, dismissal, the introduction to a lot of those topics that they'll need to know. The guidebook, you'll see kind of some images over here, has several sets of updates within them that I'd like to kind of give you some kind of section headers from the book. The first one is we kind of discuss reopening dates being dependent on the Sacramento County Public Health guidelines, right? And so you'll see over here, levels 1 through 5, you'll see that level 2 is changed. Level 2 was orientation level, and we had discussed at one point as a board authorizing orientation to be kind of an AM, PM split schedule to get very small cohorts. Well, what I'll show you later on in the presentation is that if you have 40% of your people elect to stay home and not return to campus, well, your cohorts arguably get so small that we don't need to do orientation in the traditional way. We're committed to a kind of a rolling virtual orientation, which I think is going to be great. When it's finally time to open, the 2 weeks leading up to that opening, we'll be able to do virtual orientation, letting our kids know best practices for hand washing, how it's going to look in classrooms, how will they get to the bathroom, how will they get to recess. So we're producing all that material so that when the time comes, we can orient our children virtually through distance learning. And when we arrive back on campus, we'll actually be arriving at level 3, which is baseline. And I'll show you that model today. It's also in the guidebook. But again, with our current survey results, the cohort numbers are very, very small and manageable. You imagine, Mrs. Patel in her classroom with maybe seven kids. If we went to the orientation model based on those numbers, she'd be in a classroom with 2 kids. And so we think it's a good place to start. I want to talk to you about where we're at. This was the weekly COVID transmission rate that we had put together on October 15th. This is our running spreadsheet that I've told you about. Every day we go to the Sacramento County Public Health Epidemiology website. We grab how many new cases have there been in Sacramento based on that website, and we create our own charts so we know which way the county is rolling. You can see that leading up to October 15th, it was trending down. So on October 15th, when we all met at a board meeting a month ago, we were like, hey, we're getting ready. By November 1st, we'll communicate. By November 15th, we'll have our ducks in a row. Well, here we are a month later, and there's the chart now. So you can see it's trending up. In fact, that last bar there is actually higher than any other week since we started school. Now, again, these aren't the state numbers. These are directly from the epidemiology website from the Sacramento County Public Health. And so what this is calculating is the number of new reported cases. And remember, we're trying to be less than 7 new cases per 100,000 inhabitants of Sacramento County. Again, there's 1.5 million inhabitants. So that is 7 times 15. We're trying to keep it under about 105. And we're well above that now, which is why as of 2 days ago, on November 10th, we were redesignated as the most restrictive level, right? Widespread or purple. And so now our county is in purple. I think we're all probably up to speed on that's where we are. And that's how we got here. We kind of thought we were trending one way, and we've been doing all this work for reopening, and now it looks like we're trending the other way. The good news is, though, we did all the work. And that work transfers to whatever future date when this thing trends back down. So just to be clear, schools are not eligible in Sacramento to open if they've not yet opened prior. They're not eligible to open in the purple level. So if a school had reopened already, they could theoretically remain open, but schools, which is the vast majority of schools, have not opened. And for those that have not opened, then we are now kind of in a pause. because in purple we're not eligible to reopen. Remember, once we go back to red, we have to stay in red for a full week to have the county redesignated as red. You need 2 full weeks in red for schools to become eligible to reopen. And so we'll find that window, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. We've created some potential scenarios here, but we're not gonna publish these dates. It would give people misinformation, confusion, and false hope, really, if I started saying, well, if we go red on this date, we can come back on this date. I got a 26-page guidebook. If I started putting dates in it, someone would open the guidebook, grab the date, and go, hey, did you hear? They're opening on this date, which would be false. What we are saying is we're going to work with the Sacramento County Public Health Department, follow the guidelines. When the county goes red, we have our plans in hand, and we'll be ready to go. We're obviously, as you can see on the screen, tabling some scenarios. What if the county goes red here? Could we be ready here? Yes. What if the county goes red here? Could we be good here? Yes. So we are looking at the sliding window internally, but we did not put that in the guidebook because, again, I just didn't want people to grab onto a date because we have really you all know this. You're smarter than me. I mean, we have no way of predicting whether or not this is a 2-week purple blip on the radar, or if this is the beginning of a whole nother. Remember, we're back at like a July level, and it took us from July all the way out to October to get back down. So if it's that type of curve, this could be a bit of a long run. So we're not going to put dates out because we feel like that's just not accurate information. Before I jump into what the handbook lays out, are there any questions about this piece here? Or any comments? Keep looking. You don't know if I'm looking at right in the eye, Michelle Gibbons, because you're like the smartest person about this. I'm like, did I get it right? They get a B-. Was it close?
You're gonna take my job if you keep acting like this. You're doing so good.
Great. Yeah, well, I was hoping you'd come on the air tonight and be like, oh, John, I have a date for you. Here it is. Definitively, from the smartest person in the room, you tell me. You're like, okay, I hope it's a date in January. Yeah, are we right? I mean, arguably, we just can't really. There's no one's got a crystal ball. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would say if I was looking at my crystal ball, there's Thanksgiving, there's Christmas, there's New Year's, and these are gatherings that have been the primary source of transmission. And so I think we can expect that even into January, these rates will probably be high. Not the news that I know many are hoping to hear.
Yeah, and we did articulate in our communications with families that while we thought we were going to open in January, if you decided not to come back in January, that's fine. We were going to reopen that window after February break. It's about 6 weeks. We thought from January 4th to February 19th is a 6-week run. And we come back. And so families who said, oh, it's now safe, I feel okay coming back. Then if families didn't come back in February, they could come back after spring breaks. These nice 6-week chunks. If we push too far toward February, I don't know if that same logic holds, but we'll play that as it comes down the pike and we start to see the numbers closer.
John, one easy tool I've been using when I talk to people about it is you take whatever, so say you were purple next Tuesday, right? Let's just say that. You count 5 weeks, right, as a family, and you know that is the soonest anybody is going to be able to reopen in Sacramento County. And it doesn't tell you the day Westlake's opening, right? But it does provide you that sense of, okay, we're purple this week, so I know it's not before X.
Right.
Right. And 5 weeks really is, I mean, that's going to be the window, assuming, again, that even we can make the 3 weeks so we can stay down for the next 2, right? That's why that buffer is built in. But that's just what I've been telling people and what we've been using in my workplace to try to sort it out, right? Is that rule of 5.
Unpack the 5 weeks for us, Hope. So it's next Tuesday, and we're designated purple. Then
right.
A week later, so I'll count them on my fingers. A week later, the numbers drop off, COVID goes away, and we have the numbers to be in red, but what happens that week?
Purple.
Still purple because we haven't been in red long enough. Then the next week, week, purple because it takes 2 weeks of data to get to red. Oh, 3 weeks of data. My bad. 3 weeks of data, and then to get to red in week 4. But you can't open schools after there's 1 week of data. You couldn't open schools to the end of that 5th week. So really, it's in the 6th week from the week that you described. So yeah, that is the rolling window.
And that it's some people I've talked to have found it helpful. It also matches loosely kind of what they've heard in the media about different school districts in their region. I mean, Folsom Cordova is certainly the outlier in this area, right? I still can't, they teach their own, but opening today feels a little weird. But it is what it is. For me, it's been helpful. I just had a discussion with a friend about the loss of hope of things changing, right? That when is that end? We don't have vacations set. We don't have this set. Like maybe going back to school, right? For some kids is that thing that they're looking most forward to. So in terms of looking at it and being able to have discussions and using numbers and just calendars, it's just been helpful. She's used that with her first graders. So I don't know. I just put it out there, John. No one has to use it. It's just a good rule of thumb to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, I love it. I think I'll start putting that in the language. I'm talking to staff tomorrow, and I might just roll that out. Thank you. Okay, so the rest of the slides. I mean, I'll give you a little peek into the guidebook just because we're talking about it. Obviously, our health and safety program, our health and safety protocols are all dialed in. We got extra pieces in here that weren't in the previous guidebook. This is some more detailed, kind of like a decision tree. Hey, if you have these symptoms, please stay home until you're symptom-free for 72 hours. If this particular symptom happens, this is what's recommended. So we like this piece. We're also going to have these on sandwich boards, so as you approach the school. But we like this being published so that everyone can start that screening from home and being really transparent about what the expectation is for health and safety protocols. Again, as we talk about, we have an amazing HVAC system, right? I nerd out on our HVAC system, very modern, brand new HVAC system that turns over our air. Exchange rate is 6 times per hour, which is really an industry, a high industry standard in a situation like a pandemic. That's what you want. But as you read about like keeping your air clean, the number one thing you could do is not filter it. It is to keep the COVID out of it in the first place, right? So the best thing we could do is self-screen at home and be diligent about saying, please stay home so that no germ, disease enters the classroom in the first place. You can sanitize all you want, but keeping it out of the classroom is our best form of defense. Lots of information in our guidebook about the nuts and bolts, right? This is really this is Melissa Gruenholt's dream space, right? That she lives in is just like real organized, the dots all over campus. We know where to stand. We know which way to walk. We've got inside the guidebook, you got the map with the arrows and which way we're walking around campus. Little examples of kids walking. Which gates you're entering from or exiting from, depending on your arrival and dismissal pieces. How we're getting out to recess. All those pieces are built into the handbook. I don't know if you're looking for to read a guidebook, but I would say give it a read. You'll get this experience of like, oh, I see what's happening at my school. I see what my kids are going to experience. I think it's well put together. The team did a great job. Again, classroom protocols are laid out in there. There's some pictures of what the classrooms look like, how far apart the desks are laid out, things like that. And of course, our instructional models, when your child would come to school, when your child would learn synchronously or asynchronously. And I really thought it was important to tell our community what we're trying to accomplish and remind everybody, we can do anything we want. We can't do everything we want. You got to make decisions based on what you're trying to accomplish. And so what is Westlake trying to accomplish? We've said very clearly, health and safety is our number one priority. We're not cutting corners on that. We're not using plexiglass instead of 6 feet of social distancing. We are saying 6 feet and wearing a face covering is what is expected. And so we're going to build for that. The other piece is we're trying to keep our teachers and students together and our classmates together, that our community matters. And so while we could rip apart the schedule and rebuild it with distance learning kids over here and in-class kids over here, you'd all end up with a new teacher and you have to start new friendships, and that just isn't what we think is best for the social emotional capacity of our children and our teachers as well. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. Everything else is somewhat secondary because we know our academic program is strong. We think the health and safety and keeping our community together is what we're trying to accomplish. Just shouting out where some of these resources are at. If you have a community member that approaches you like, hey, what's going on? On this Westlake Charter website under the WCS call out there's that Return to School tab, and it'll take you to this page. You got FAQs down at the bottom that are being updated weekly. So lots of frequently asked questions coming from our community. We're answering them down there. The videos are embedded on this website, and the new guidebook that comes out this weekend will be embedded on this website. So it is a kind of a one-stop shop. And just as a shout out to Melissa Grunholtz, Whitney O'Hagan, Jen Kayau, the whole team that's been doing all this work. I've responded to several emails just this week. One of them from Florin High School saying, hey, I heard through the grapevine you guys are doing really good stuff on this reopening piece. Can you share your plans with us? I heard you guys are painting dots all around your campus. Is that true? I respond to this person email. I'm like, yes, here's a picture of the dots. It seems crazy, but we love it. And here's our one-stop shop. I sent him our website, and it was like, oh, all of your stuff is in one place. And so, again, I'm just really proud of that work. I think the team's doing a great job, and we're trying to be forward and transparent with all the communication. So those are the reopening plans, not super different from what you've heard. And I'm going to jump into some survey results about who is coming back. Sean?
Yeah, just quick question on the communication piece. Will there be a new survey being sent out to the parents when there is a new reopening date?
Yeah, I hadn't expected to do that because I really had hoped that reopening date was still within the same striking distance of what we had articulated earlier. We had said, remember, we had not told anybody a date. I think there was some assumed early January or January 4th, but we never set a date. We said early January. So if there's any chance we're still targeting early to mid-January, then no, I don't think we'll resurvey. If it starts to stretch, though, Sean, I mean, I at some level go, okay, just checking. Are you still with us? And I think part of the communication, Sean, has to be like, if we don't do a full resurvey, there might be some form of like, hey, families, when you filled out this survey, the county was in red, and you thought you were coming back January 4th, and now it's March 17th. Just kidding. Now it's later, and it's changed. If you want to opt in or opt out, maybe now is your chance. So I think if we get past that mid-January deal, I think you're right. It's probably appropriate to say, are you still with us? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Thanks.
it really hadn't hit my radar yet, but as you said it, I'm like, depending on how far out we get, yeah. Ms. Patel?
I don't know if anyone else has played with it before. I just did in one of the Westlake weeklies, like maybe even just this past weekend. Our new language setting is really amazing. I was really curious, like, does it really work in Hindi? Do you really see this characters? And you do. And so my question is, because I don't understand how this site works, this handbook is just so much information. You said it's embedded in the site. So is it like a slide where the slides are locked and they show English no matter what, or will this change language?
It's a PDF, and so it does. I don't think the translator will translate it. It's a really good note, though, you guys. I mean, we could peel the text out of it and put it on a back site that says maybe like click here for multiple languages. You'd lose a lot of your graphics, which is fine. I mean, just as long as the information's there. So, Amy, if we make a note of that, that's certainly something we can look into. Yeah, I love it. Thank you. That's super inclusive. Any other thoughts, questions, or concerns? I really wish I was telling you more closely, like an opening date. Ms. Gibbons?
This is just a thought, but I think one of the things that should continue to be embedded in our communications is strategies to get us to reopen, because I think everybody's just like waiting for this date, but we have a lot of power in that. And so just reminding families about, things to do, your holidays are coming up, just helpful tips. I think schools are a good avenue to be able to share that messaging. And there's some guidance. There's some holiday guidance that's out there, or that will be coming out, and gathering guidance that's already out there. So I think there's ways we can emphasize that message so that families feel empowered to help get us to those milestones.
It's a great point. I don't know that that's been real central for our messaging. I like that. I mean, if we could get that in our weekly communications, like, hey, if we all do these things, we can get back to school. Yeah, thank you. Any other thoughts, questions, or concerns? Just a couple of slides on the data. So I just, I wanted you guys to see where we were at. I know that's a super small little chart. I'll read it out to you, though. When I took a screenshot of this today, we were at 793 responses. You all know that we have 1,000 students. And then by the time the board meeting started, we were already at 803 responses. So it's continuing to tick up. We're over 80% right now of our students responded. 600 families, 1,000 children. So we're at 800 children accounted for, more or less. So we're at 80% since November 1st. We launched this thing on November 1st. So really, in just a short amount of time, we've got a really strong response rate right there. The two answers were, my student will continue in full-time distance learning, or my student will, return in January using our baseline schedule. About 60% are saying they're going to return. You can see it's 42% there. So it's really 58% returning. Now, as you look across your classrooms, some are at 65%. Well, you all know how math works. If some are at 65%, some are at 55%. That's really interesting. And there's no rhyme or reason. I've looked. I'm like scratching on grade levels, and it is really hit or miss across the whole spectrum. And so I think it's interesting. You start to think about some examples of what that really looks like on a cohort. Let's take a look. Like Mrs. Smith has 18 students in her first grade classroom. Okay, she has 18 students. 11 of them will return out of 18. Remember, some classes have 18, some classes have 19. Middle school, fourth and fifth grade have 22 students. We'll see an example of that. Middle school typically has 28 students. So this class of 18 is down to 11, which could break out to 5 in cohort A and 6 in cohort B. So you could be looking at Monday and Tuesday, 5 kids in the room. Thursday and Friday, 6 kids in the room, and everybody else online. That would be like 12 kids online on Friday afternoon. Mrs. Jones, on the other hand, has 18 kids. She has 11 return. She could be cohort A, have 9 kids, and cohort B have 2 kids. Ruh-roh. So we had to build cohorts based on the most important factor, and that is siblings, right? And it was a ton of work to really make sure that every sibling got balanced out in such a way. I don't know if you can conceptualize this work, but this cohort balancing early on, when we hoped everybody was coming back, and then we still hope everyone comes back, really a big deal. So if we end up with a 9-2 split like this, we may not be able to do anything about it. Because if you go to try to move anybody out of cohort 9, or the 9 kids, into the 2, you might be dragging siblings with you and mess up somebody else's classroom. So we will iteratively work through this process as we go forward. We're now pulling data in the background about cohort A and cohort B. But I guess I show you this to show you that like each step of this process is riddled with very interesting problems to solve. Just a couple more examples, and then I promise I'll walk away. And that is, if Mrs. Rodriguez has 22 students, like a 4th or 5th grade class, she has 14 return, and that could be a 7 and 7. And then here's a middle school at 28 having 17 return. They could be a 9 and 8, or they could be a 14 and 3. One thing to note about these numbers, though, 14 return, 17 return, 11 return, it is very easy for us to imagine, whoops, I'm going to Emily's slides there. It's easy for us to imagine we start in baseline, we keep it safe, we do a good job, we serve our students well, And at some point, you might wake up and go, well, we can fit all 14 of those kids in a room 5 days a week. Let's change the model and let's go to increased capacity. So if 40% of the people continue to elect full-time distance learning, then the people who do elect to come back could theoretically have more time in class, because again, with you can imagine Mrs. Patel in a classroom at some point down the road with 11 students. It seems like, oh, I think that Mrs. Patel could have 11 kindergartners, not in the first week, let's get our feet on the ground, but at some point, like, that seems to make some form of sense. So I just show you those numbers. And again, Sean, you're right. I mean, these could all change based on the next survey, right? But it's a good place for us to start. Any questions on any of the data or any of the processes?
No, just a thought. If it'd be interesting to see what happens if the number of days a week a student was going to be on campus somehow shifted, right? So I guess it's going to be important potentially that if we find that our cohorts are small enough to bring them back 5 days a week, that we stay very firm, obviously, on our responses. I guess that's just the give and take of that, right? Because it could then become a more appealing option, but we're still going to have to be willing to say no,
right,
in order to get that cohort the right size.
Yeah.
So it's just
the irony, right, is you come back in January, you only have 11 kids in your classroom. By the end of January, we're like, let's go to 5 days a week. Then on February 14th, all the families are like, oh, it's 5 days a week? We're coming back. Great, come on back. By the way, it's only 2 days a week because enough people came back where we can't all fit in a room anymore. Yep, that's the iterative process of making sure we put health and safety first, and we'll have to work it out as we go. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
Right, it's just one of those things to talk about frequently and often, so that no one is surprised if, as that iterative process happens, of the give and take of the back and forth, which is why I've always liked the phased approach, because it lets you slide along the line. But it's just one of those things that comes to mind when we talk about this.
Oh, 100%, 100%. All right, well, there's no other questions. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time.
It's still you.
Is it
now
me?
you can talk about the potential academic calendar.
Oh, is it still me? Oh, how fun. Yeah, let's open up that potential academic calendar. Oh, I don't have the link open here. Let me go grab it over here. Well, we placed the academic calendar inside of the packet. It is really very similar to the calendar that you have approved for this year, with the caveat that you may see some semesters on there because you now have a high school. And so here we are, our first chance saying, well, if we open up around the same time we normally do, August 12th-ish, and we finish around the same time we normally do, June 8th-ish, and we take fall break and Thanksgiving break and winter break and February break and spring break. If we do all what we normally do, how does that work for a high school? And it seems to work out pretty well. One thing you will notice as you look at the calendar is this is what every high school deals with in a 180-day school year, is that if you're trying to get your semester done before winter break, you either have to start school in like July or you have to have an imbalanced school year. And so I would encourage you to recognize that most of the schools in this region run an imbalanced year. Some by more than others, right? The large comprehensive high schools actually run a slightly less imbalanced. They're off by 4 to 6 days, whereas like some of our charter partners are off by more like 12 and 14 days. And what typically happens is there's more days in second semester than in first semester. Well, for those of us who are going to be on a 4x4 schedule, that matters. You're like, hey, every day counts. When you're taking a semester is equivalent to a whole year because you have long periods. So one justification for the current calendar that we have is if our high school and our K-8, if our whole K-12 starts on the same day and ends on the same day, it creates an imbalance for the high school by 10 days. The 10 days can be gobbled up by some testing days. Certainly there are, the spring fling and senior grad week and all the things that happen in high school, but I would like to call out that piece. The other option to create, to change that imbalance would be to have the high school potentially start earlier. I'm not sure you want to do that in year one. I like this first blush of the calendar just as a, hey, it's our first time opening a high school. Let's kind of keep everybody together, and we'll iteratively find out, what needs to wiggle in subsequent years. But hopefully you guys get a chance to look at that. We are a little, I would say we're a little early. We're a little late on collaborating with our traditional partners. Typically by this meeting, I'm able to say, hey, Natomas Charter School looks like this, NP3 looks like this, and we just haven't been able to do that analysis yet. I think all of us are a little caught behind by the current situation, but I will bring that information back for you. Do you have any thoughts on the calendar, any questions on the calendar, or any comments on the calendar that we can collect or discuss tonight? Does everybody have access to it? Amy, it's in the packet, right? I can try and bring it up on the screen too.
It's in the packet, yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay. And it's not on, just as a reminder, it's not on for action tonight. It's on just for discussion. It's not just discussion, but if you come up with ideas and you don't necessarily have them right now or need time to review it to see how it works in your mind, you can always email John your questions as well. So don't feel pressured if you need some more review time. But our past practice has been to bring it to the board for discussion in November and to vote on it in December. So we're just following that practice.
Yeah, I do like the opportunity for us to have this next month to clean it up, for sure. Any hopes and dreams for the calendar from anybody out there that little like, oh gosh, what I've always thought was important was X that we haven't done and we should do? If you got anything, it's not a bad time to call it out.
John, can you just explain because the way I see the calendar, high school and the rest of Westlake, we end on the same day. So what were you saying about the difference in the semester?
Sorry, yeah. So if we start on the same day and end on the same day, the K-8 is on trimesters, and trimester 1 ends before winter break, and trimester 2 goes over winter break and ends after winter break. But with a semester, with a high school semester, if you want that semester to end before winter break, then the first half of your year is 10 days shorter than the second half of your year. High schools love to get it done before winter break because then what happens, if you don't, you have to have finals week on January 11th, and it's like, oh my gosh, like we just had 2 weeks of learning loss, and we're going to come back and take finals. So that's the imbalance I was talking about, Michelle, was that you're going to have 10 fewer days in semester 1 than you do in semester 2. And what I was articulating was that semester 1 doesn't have 5 days of CASP, and it doesn't have spring flings, graduation week, those type of things. So you can almost theoretically conceptualize instructional minutes being equal.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. And I would agree. I would hate for the students to have to come back after winter break to do finals.
Right. Although, I don't know what Westlake High School finals are going to look like. It could be, that'd be kind of cool. I don't know, man. It's going to be such an amazing school. Any other thoughts, you guys? It's a pretty straight up 180-day calendar like we've done in the past, with a couple of those floating travel days, like on November 11th. Is it November 12th?
Well, the 12th. So you get that. No one's coming back on Friday the 12th from a holiday on November 11th.
Yeah. So there you go.
We'll have to work tomorrow.
Right. You're plugging in these floating days. Now there's these 2 travel days. If you took both those travel days off, you could get out of school 2 days earlier, but that means you get out of school on a Monday. So then we were like, oh, well, what if you started school 1 day earlier? You get out of school on a Friday. And we thought, well, look, let's just keep doing what we've always done for now and see if we stretch there. So any of those crazy ideas, feel free to pitch them or let us know.
So, John, are you saying that, like, November 12th, there's no school?
I thought I was saying that, but maybe I'm not. Hold on.
No, and you're fine if you are. To me, so my feedback is, like, it's awesome that the high school doesn't change the calendar for us. For me, I don't read it that way. If that's what it says, it's not clear to me. So
yeah,
that was
that's my fault.
Yeah, it's actually that's the end. That 12th is the end of the trimester, is what it is.
So then, John, that changes my comment where I would try to stick a travel day there because it's really weird to have the last day of the trimester fall on the day after a holiday from school.
Yeah.
Right? I think logistically it might make sense to try to end that trimester on the 10th instead of the 12th.
So maybe take that. You want to take that travel day from the 17th and put it up there on the 12th, or you can take the travel day off of April 15th and bring it over there to the 12th. If that was something you're interested in doing, we can kick that around.
So for me, I would do the 17th because this isn't a year where Christmas is super close to getting out of school, right? You have a whole week really before you hit Christmas Eve. Not that we have I don't know when Hanukkah falls or the other holidays. So I would ask that you take that into account too with what I'm saying. I'm unknowledgeable on those holidays and I apologize.
I got my team looking at A-Dub, make some notes on all the holidays in that winter break season, and let's just see if there's some justification for that argument. Because
it makes sense to me.
Yeah, the 11th, 12th, and that leads you into what's that conference week on the 15th through the 19th, right?
Yeah, as a teacher, when I look at that, we know report cards are getting printed Friday, right? So there's nothing more we can get out of Friday the 12th before going into conference. We're starting something new, but starting something new on Friday before a weekend when you had yesterday off is funny.
Although it's a perfect day for Olympic triathlon, like tomorrow.
Oh, it could be.
Well, hey, we'll put those in the hopper, you guys, and we'll kick them around the team. That's good stuff. If anybody else has any thoughts on this calendar, send them my way. All ideas are good ideas.
I have one last thought, John. Yeah. Like when you're looking at the high school calendar and you're trying to find maybe those 10 days, right? Do not sacrifice fall break.
Oh, God. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say it. I just felt the need to say it. That not having that week this year has been one of the most painful things about this fall. So I just know it's such an important break for students and staff. So I just wanted to put it out there for families who maybe see a more traditional calendar and wonder if that's a place for it.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I'm a big fall break fan myself, so thank you for saying that.
Your birthday and all.
I would just call out too for the high school, John. I think in all of our, we think about the capital campaign that the development team is doing. Any big trip that kids are going to take in high school and be gone from school while learning somewhere else, but gone from traditional learning, is typically a spring thing. So just another reason to think why the extra 10 days in those classes is fine, because most grades are going to experience, and presumably, if it's 2 or 3 days in 9th grade, then 10th grade might be more, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
so another piece to consider.
Excellent. Okay. Any other thoughts? All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the dialogue. Again, please reach out to me if you have any follow-up thoughts on that calendar.
So that brings us to our high school presentation and Mrs. Batten.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
It was so fun to hear the calendar conversation. I was sitting in the wings going, "Ooh, this is a good discussion." Thanks for letting me come this evening. I know that last month we presented a pretty hefty presentation on our math detracking, and it was so great to have that conversation with you all. I will say that tonight's topic, no less important, but maybe a little bit lighter. So we'll have some fun and talk high school. I have a few updates, and then I'm going to do a deeper dive into some of our Q4 work.
Do I need Do I need tissue?
No, I will not make you cry. Well, who knows, Amy? I might.
Do not make promises.
I don't. No promises. All right. So we are. Mr. Riker, are you advancing are you making my slides?
I will have to advance your slides because I'm doing the YouTube thing.
Yes. So we'll go. I will give you a signal.
Thank you.
We'll hand up. We go to the next slide, and
before we go to the next slide, Mrs. Batten, has nobody noticed anything about the first slide that catches your eye? Anybody notice anything different about the first slide? Sean,
Their
Tony?
shield is very strange. Very strange with that shield.
It is just crazy. I'm sorry, Ms. Batten. I'll get off the screen. I'll let you go. But when Mrs. Batten presented this logo, I was like, I love it, but change is hard. Like, yes, there you go. You have a high school, the beginnings of a high school logo, a first iteration. But thank you, Ms. Batten, for your hard work on this. It's cool to see a little tweak, but it still is Westlake. All right.
Yeah,
here we go.
I've been seeing for weeks.
You okay with that, Mr. Ike?
I know.
Sorry.
You are embracing change.
No, it's all right.
It's exposure therapy. We just keep showing it to him every morning for like 20 minutes so that.
All right.
All right. So we're in the middle of quarter 4, and the work is chugging along. Odd choice of words. Next slide, please. So in quarter 4, we had some of our quarter 4 highlights that we shared last time in our October meeting, and today we're going to I'm going to share some details of our High School Spirit Council. The work for that team is underway. I'll be talking about our October design review with Silicon Schools, which is a really exciting piece, both for our presentation, but then also some of the networking and connection opportunities we've received from that. And then recruitment of our freshman class. And even though it wasn't in our quarter 4 highlights, we also have facility in there too. So there's a facility theme through all of tonight's presentations, and we'll talk a little bit about facility as well. A couple of quick updates as we, just to kind of paint the picture for the October design review, and I won't go into too much detail. Silicon Schools hosts a design review in October as schools are in the beginning stages of their development, and then again in March as we're getting into like the technical. Okay, we're days away from opening, and so we were fortunate enough to be a part of that process this October. We not only did we present our current high school plan, but we also got to be part of a review process on a KIPP NorCal school that is opening in Stockton next year, as well as an Aspen prep school that is opening in Fresno this next year. And so both are KIPP NorCal school, KIPP Stockton Middle School, I think is the name of it, will be opening as a 5th grade and be growing up towards high school. And then the Aspen Prep School is opening as a high school as an extension of their opening in middle school and growing towards high school as well as an extension of their existing K-8 school. So a lot of similarities. We got to share our design, but also give them feedback and receive feedback from them. So I think Mr. Ike and Mrs. Sargent and myself were all part of our team that presented and received the feedback and took part in a really cool fishbowl process where we turned off our cameras and heard them talk about us. And so it was wonderful. And I think from that, one of the biggest takeaways is that there's a lot of excitement around many pieces of our high school program from these partners. In the meetings as well, there were several of Silicon School strategic partners, and they provided a wonderful feedback for us, in particular around flex blocks. And so there's just Diego Arambula, who's on the screen. He is he works with Transcend. So Transcend is an organization that helps get schools across the nation kind of up and off the ground, and goes through their design thinking process with them. And he's like, hey, flex blocks are going to be the greatest thing the state of California has ever seen. He's like, as long as you do it right. And so we're like, well, we want to talk to you, Diego. So we got a chance to collaborate with him this week. Ken Montgomery, who is the executive director and CEO of DTech Schools. They're co-located on the Oracle campus in Silicon Valley. So we met with him. His school has a self-motivation or a self-choice day that they started with. And so we got to talk with him about the iterations of the evolution of that, where he's like, we started this way and now then we went here, and we were doing it on pencil and paper, and they're all the way to a spot now where they have created essentially their own learning management system to manage this self-choice day. I'm obviously very excited about these conversations. I'm sorry if I'm sharing too much information. Then we're also connecting with Rob Schwartz, who is a member of the Silicon Schools team and did some research several years ago of some case studies of several different schools who use time flexibly. And so it's just great to talk to each of these partners and to hear about how they're using flex blocks. You know, I was sitting here thinking that it was a totally innovative idea that no one was doing. Just kidding. But to hear success and failures and ideas on how to help our students take agency over their learning, and do it in a really authentic way to maximize the use of this time. And so we're just getting better through these partnerships. So it's been a great couple weeks being part of that process. And then I think Mr. Ike shared this. Mr. Ike shared this, but we announced last night at our coffee talk that WCHS is on the Westlake Charter website. It's very exciting. I encourage all of you to go click there and then click on the videos a few times so we get some more view counters. But share it with your friends. This is, as I talk about student recruitment and even staffing recruitment, this is definitely a tool in that toolbox. We know that as lottery opens, our website gets a lot of traffic, families coming to check it out. I've prospective parent tours in January. I hear people say, "Oh, I went on Miss Rojo's page." I'm like, "You're not even one of our families," but they're digging through that material, and so to have information about our high school up there as we gear up for our lottery is exciting. And big shout out to my partner, Mrs. Sargent, and Mr. Corving, both of whom put countless hours into making this happen. And we can't wait to see the many iterations of this website go as we get closer to opening and have pictures of our students on it and all kinds of awesome stuff. So, okay. I want to dive into, last time I was here in October, I did a deeper dive into staff recruitment, which is one of our big focuses, but obviously we are, less than 30 days away from our lottery opening, and we are excited to begin not only recruiting our current 8th graders to join our 9th grade class, but also knowing that no matter what, even if all 112 of our 8th graders went, we would still have spots for community members. And so recruiting those 8th grade families from our community to jump into our lottery is a big focus of ours. And we've got some strategic actions set in place over the next few weeks as we build up towards lottery and then into December and January as well. So this work started actually probably in end of August and September. We began with making student phone calls. So we can, I think I mentioned this before in an earlier board meeting, but we connected with 92 of our 112 8th grade families and talked to them. Mrs. Sargent and I visited every advisory class, working, sharing with them details of the high school, but also working to build our Spirit Council. So our Westlake Charter High School Spirit Council, and we have a parent of a Spirit Council member on the screen. A couple of our council members are represented on this screen right now. We are excited for these 90 plus 6th through 8th grade students. I went out being like, I want everyone to join, but thinking, we'll have a little bit of interest. And the interest forms just kept rolling in. And now that initial invitations have gone out, I received even more emails from people being like, I was really tired the morning you came. I didn't hear. Can I please join? So lots of excitement around that. And we will be having our first high school Spirit Council meeting next week. We will also be having a swag pickup day on the 19th. So we've got a fun Westlake Charter High School banner we're going to put out there on the sidewalk and have bags for our council members to pick up and with some information for them in there. So excited about that piece, and not just for the recruitment aspect of it, but because we truly are building our student voice into the development of this school and giving this council some good decision, like some fun decision-making processes that will truly affect the trajectory of what we do when it comes to our mascot. We're having them take part in developing our clubs and what clubs look like at Westlake. So not just the clubs we offer, but how we ensure that our clubs are inclusive. And I think there's no better way to do that than by including our student voice in that process. We've got Westlake Charter High School on the website, and then we're going to use Facebook. And so I'm going to do a little plea moment here because I'm big on recruitment right now. But as you see those Facebook posts coming out over the next few weeks around our high school, like them, share them. That's how we're going to get that out to our community. We know that we've got good traction with our families on our Facebook page. I spent a lot of time in Facebook analytics over the past few weeks. It's really interesting to see what received likes. I could have done I should have done this as a raffle on the coffee talk last night. We have one post in particular over the past 2 months that has received more interaction than any other post. It was drive-through pictures, like tremendously more interaction. So just you are members of our community, so as you see that, just get the word out there. And then, as Mr. Reich mentioned, we will be doing, in conjunction with our K-9 marketing materials, we will also have some high school specific marketing materials that we'll send out to our community. So facility, and I'm not making any major facility announcement right now, I promise, but we have been, surprise, we've been working with some really fantastic designers and starting the process of just like dreaming. I think we have gotten very used to going through the design process of building on 11 acres of land, right? We got to say, this is what we want our school to be, and it erected from the ground and was a perfect fit for our program. And so thinking now that we most likely will move into a building that already exists, we were able to say, this is, these are some of the things that we're thinking of, and using some space that may be a potential home for us, playing with some ideas that will get us in that, to, realize what is possible. So we see using a dining space as yes, Mr. Reich.
If it's okay, Ms. Batten, I apologize.
Yeah,
one thing I just didn't articulate during my presentation was that while we don't have a facilities use agreement signed for next year, we're still somewhat in a negotiation phase, but also the reality is that our partners at the Natomas Unified School District are just as busy as we are. We've stayed in great communication with our liaison, Angela Herrera. We are not in some, horn-locked argument. We're just, she is carrying a massive load, trying to do what she's doing on her end. We're working on our end. We're working together. One of the potential conversations on the table, obviously, is using the East Commerce Westlake Charter Innovation Center as our potential temporary facility. And so that's what Mrs. Batten has done here, is she's using the backdrop of that facility. While there are other facilities that may actually come to fruition in the short or long term, it's really appropriate, Mrs. Batten, that you use this because this is a highly likely temporary facility for us. And so I just want to say that for our board and for our public, that we're not just picking some random background. These are actually pictures. These are actually pictures from the East Commerce Westlake Charter School Innovation Center.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying this, Rick. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Yes, the Innovation Center. I will now officially begin my rebranding process. So I think, as Mr. Reich just said, we are looking at this space and imagining what's possible, and just the preliminary ideas that have come out of it, that are possibilities, are so exciting. So you see a space that allows for the multi-use that we experience on our current K-8 campus, age appropriate and developmentally appropriate for our high school students. This picture came across, I was like, is that a college campus? Are we sure that's the Innovation Center? And that is the vibe that we're going for, that we're building towards, this use of space that our students can be comfortable in. This would be an example of flexible learning spaces. So on our current campus, we've got our flex spaces, and we see these spaces existing in the Innovation Center or in our facility, and they would be spaces that would support our flex blocks, but also be used during class periods and designed for those independent and group work learning periods. I think something that's so exciting for us, and the last slide on this of an indoor space, is a sample from one of our furniture partners that we worked with for the K-8, which is VS Furniture. And so to take all that we've learned about furniture and furniture use and flexible furniture from our past 3 years on our K-8 campus, and then begin to apply that and do, I won't say better because then my K-8 friends will get mad at me, but that we get to, grow from our experience and take that learning towards our high school campus. So we see the use of, modular furniture that can move and adapt to learning needs in spaces. And then this is a sample of a classroom. So you'll see, again, we have talked through each part of this process about the extension of our K-8 mission into high school, that we're not building a brand new school, that we're extending our mission. And I think our furniture is an example of that. We intentionally at K-8 picked furniture that was appropriate for the age levels that we're going to be sitting and using that furniture, and that this, we will continue to do that. So we're not just taking the same, we're like, oh, we really like the furniture package we got in, Mr. Ackley's 8th grade class. That's not the mentality we're going into it with. We're looking to see what we're trying to do, which is really, to prepare our students for college and beyond, and so to create learning spaces that reflect that are even more flexible that are, again, age and developmentally appropriate, that will be comfortable for our students, is reflected in this classroom space, along with that really amazing whiteboard wall.
And to be clear, I mean, what you're seeing are examples. None of this furniture has been
Right.
selected nor purchased. We're
No.
just giving ideas at this point.
Right. But I will purchase it if someone. No, I'm just kidding. And then finally, I just couldn't. I couldn't walk away from this presentation. While this is a picture of the gym facility, the most exciting piece is seeing our explorers in our Westlake jersey prepared to take on sports. And I know I talk about sports. Obviously, it is not like the only piece of our program, but it is such an exciting part of what we're offering. And our design partners sent this picture over, just kind of a, hey, check this out, see what it could look like. And so I wanted to share it with all of you as well.
This must please John, Emily, since it's got the old shield on it.
It's got the old
Sure,
logo.
it does. It does.
I couldn't help it. I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it.
The new logo is less than 12 hours old. This is now officially the old logo. How strange. How quickly things change.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Batten. Team, do we have any questions, thoughts, or concerns regarding any of the topics that are covered by Mrs. Batten? I think some of those renderings of what a potential East Commerce facility would look like are very exciting. I know that there's some trepidation around, well, gosh, what does it look like to go to a school that's not a traditional looking school? Well, you look at those pictures and you go, oh, that looks like a cool learning space. I mean, the way you've gone through each room and taken pictures and imagine what the walls and the ceilings and the floors would look like really gives it much more of a collegiate feel. I mean, it'll look more like a college space than most high school spaces. So yeah, well done. Very exciting. If we land in East Commerce, it could look like that. I'd be happy to go there and have our community learn there. Back to you, Mrs. Gollett.
Yes. So just to keep it on everyone's radar, at the December meeting, we will have the first interim budget and hopefully some parent survey results. Right, John? That's still possible.
Yeah. Survey goes out this weekend.
Perfect. And also board goals will be on there. I just don't know when exactly that one will come up, but those two are definites for December. I went ahead and put reflection in front of closed session because we don't anticipate a report out from closed session. But John, before we start reflections, would you mind first checking to see if we've received any other public comments?
Sure. While I do that, Hope, I'm not sure how we're going to handle this. I did prepare to leave the YouTube streaming with a slide that says we're in closed session, and then we could go be in closed session, and we would come back to this screen to close down the meeting. Is that the appropriate methodology, or are we going to close this meeting? Can we adjourn this meeting?
Yes, typically we can adjourn the meeting now because we don't anticipate a report out, and what I would typically do is then text or email Amy with the time we end, just to note it for the record and to clarify that there's no report out. Otherwise, people would be holding on the YouTube video for who knows how long. And so this way, there is just some certainty that no one, I can assure people they will not be missing anything.
Great.
By not staying on for that screen.
That's perfect. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I prepped for letting YouTube just roll with. Oh my goodness, if anybody stares and watches that, So there are no public comments in the email.
Perfect. So with that, we'll go to reflections. And I'll just go with the order on my screen, which means Shannon, you're first, and then Ashley.
Well, again, I appreciate as for the past 9 months all the thoughtfulness around COVID reopening. But I'm just going to celebrate high school presentation and seeing new logos, seeing jerseys, seeing things start to come to life and feel real, and how wild it is that lottery for high school is open in less than a month. Like, truly, I have no concept this time, but that really puts the nail on the head. So, yeah, very exciting.
Ashley, and then John.
Do I get a ditto this time? I was on that impact team with Shannon, and I had the same thought. The lottery, the date, the logo, the things that it's coming to life. Not to be generic and take Shannon's, but I was having the same moment, thinking what felt like years ago, but also felt like yesterday, rewriting all the versions of what version did we get to, John? I don't even remember at this point. Zeta? I can't remember, but all the versions of the documents, to see it stay in the timeline with this world is just even more exciting.
I know, Ashley, I've been dying to see if the hurricane season is going to get as deep into the Greek alphabet as we did with the charter. And I'm not kidding you, this is actually something I do just to further embarrass myself on YouTube. So there you have it. John and then Josh.
Just as, going back to the old plus minus delta, like the plus for me, I think really is that this board, as a board, we have gone from striving to thriving. We've matured as a board. And what I love about this group of people is regardless of the topic, the discussions are rich. I mean, I loved, I think I come away from my own presentation smarter than I come in. I think I'm coming in to inform you, but I walk away with like Sean's nugget of, are you going to resurvey people? I'm like, oh, that's a good, or the discussion around calendar. Like this board makes me smarter. So I love when you all get together. And I think that's a reflection piece that like, this is why we have boards run schools as opposed to just the CEO running the school because we are, better together. So that's my reflection.
Thanks, John. Josh and then Michelle.
Yeah, so I mean, my reflection is just kind of, John and your team and sprinkle a little Westlake on it. We talked about, not going for a waiver and making sure we were doing what was best, for the kids and the teachers as far as safely reopening. And our attendance is up. We want to know if we're doing the right thing. I don't know, but attendance is up. That's got to say something. Right there. So I just wanted to point that back out because I thought that was something we hit on it, but I thought I could have used a little more yes at the end of it.
Okay, Michelle and then Nancy.
I have to kind of ditto. The high school presentation is awesome. It's great to have Emily come every meeting to share kind of what the updates are, and it's we don't see all of the interim steps and all the work that's kind of in between. And so when she makes these presentations, I'm always fascinated by how much work has gone into this. So yeah, that's the highlight of my night.
Nancy and then Sean.
So I would say ditto to all those things. I do know how much there's just so many things that happen that we don't see, and it just sort of magically appears. That it's sometimes hard to imagine how much work actually goes into it. So having seen how others are handling school reopening and transitions into that, and having as a parent, and my dogs have an opinion too, just seeing how much thoughtfulness is going into the Westlake reopening of the campus, all the thought process that goes into it. I just appreciate it that much more now that I'm not a parent at Westlake anymore, right? And so I see things I feel like I see things from a different lens, and I try not to compare and contrast because, we're different entities, but the reality is that I just feel like we're just doing so many things right. And as a parent, as a board member, I appreciate that from our admin team and all the work that goes into it. So thank you for your thoughtfulness, and yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Sean?
So I guess kind of a ditto to Nancy. I now have several points of view or several points of reference on school reopening and or campus reopenings, and there's those duck feet have been awfully busy beneath the surface, and I just just all of the. It seems as if everything that could have been thought of has been thought of. And I'm sure there will be more things to be thought of. But I mean, it just, the number of things which have been addressed, which my other points of reference, maybe not so much. It's really gratifying to be part of such a great group of people.
I was also going to reflect on my love of the iterative process that this has gone through, that willingness to adjust the sails when we need to. I think I have a unique perspective on the board in that I have a student back in the classroom, and I don't know if I am the only one in that position. And to sort of piggyback off of Nancy and Sean to the bit, not only do I have a student back in the classroom, but I'm in a very strange world of not being on the board there or having anyone care at all. They care, but who am I, right? I'm just like any other parent. And so there's just been many points. So being able to come here and still, I confuse people constantly because when I talk about what school's doing publicly, I'm talking about what Westlake's doing, and they look at me like what am I talking about? Like, your daughter doesn't go there. I was like, oh, but no, but, you know, I just, whenever I talk about school, I'm talking about Westlake. It's just easier. Amy commented early on about the true ones that we all bleed blue. And I'm never going to shake that, but I love coming to work with the board and knowing we all feel that way and that we all bring those different and unique experiences that we're having between, you know, just everything right now. I think you're really highlighting, or we as a board are highlighting our different strengths. And I think that's really awesome. Emily or Steve, do you want to reflect? You're still on, but I just don't know. Hey, Emily, are you up for it?
Always. I love a good reflection. So John's gone. I think I would just ditto what some others of you have said. I've had the privilege of kind of sitting in the audience for the board for, this is year 8, and seeing the evolution of the conversation and the work the board has done. It's exciting to see, and I think in this moment of time when every board meeting holds new surprises and new information, to see the board kind of take that and in stride and provide such wonderful feedback just as an employee, as a member of the team, makes me feel so grateful to be part of Westlake.
There really is a new surprise every time. I mean, like, especially around, like, say, reopening. Like, it's so out of our control that there is just always such a surprise that okay. Steve's last chance, going once. Oh, you
sure.
Okay.
Yep, I'll celebrate. Yep. I'm always excited to hear about my high school. Miss Batten just brings so much awesome energy around it that every time it's like, oh, there's a high school piece, I'm like, oh, this is going to be really cool. And I always get like new pieces out of it. So I just appreciate all the hard work that Miss Batten's done and Miss Sargent has done. And so it was a great piece tonight.
Thanks, Steve. So, John, last check for comments.
While he's checking, can I just add a really quick comment about the back to school video, one of the videos that John and Melissa did, that I kind of love their singing of the hand washing song because it's pretty awesome. And it just, I'm like, wow, how brave of them to do that, because hello, you're singing to potentially 1,000 families, right? That was pretty impressive.
Well, Melissa sings like a songbird. She's got nothing to be worried about. I sound like I ate a box of gravel singing that song. But it's fine. It was tons of fun making that video with Melissa. She's a natural on camera. There are no public comments.
Nancy, it cannot be said for anyone in this organization that we don't put ourselves out there.
Right? That would be most true. Like, I would never do that. Just for the record, don't even ask.
I've been sitting here trying to process in my mind, as before we go into closed session, how we're going to do Cocoa Train this year. because it is my, like, I know you have ideas, but it's just, can I just say, it's like one of those things, but the best thing about this community and this place is that I know we will make something happen, right? Like, we will find a way to celebrate. And I love that about us. It's just my other reflection. Like, we start with celebrations, we end with reflections, and it's just amazing. With that, I will announce publicly that we are now going to go into closed session with our real property negotiators. The information related to that closed session is available on our agenda and is in regards to price and terms. And with that, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and we'll send Amy Wells the time of our adjournment out of closed session when we're done. We have no, like I said, no expected report out. So
before we...
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Before we leave the meeting, Amy, will you make sure that each board member receives the link to the next meeting? I'll turn
I
off.
emailed it.
I'll turn off
Everybody
the
should
YouTube.
have it in your emails already.
Excellent, thank you.
Amy, though, could you do me a big favor and also put it in the email with the packet? Because even though I have it now, I won't be able to quickly get to it.
Do you mean if you're signed into your Westlake email, when you click the red telephone here, it's already popping up as a link on your Google Meet.
Oh, that's
So when
right.
you click the red telephone and you say go back to home screen, you'll already have like a
You
quick
talking
link.
about closed session, John?
I don't think so, Ashley, because it wasn't done as a calendar to the.
It was done as a calendar link to everybody.
Oh, I'd say it's on mine.
Okay.
It should be.
Then yeah.
You know, just another method that if it was with that email, I'm more likely to be able to find it quickly.
I could drop it in the chat right now.
But wait, we're talking about that. I thought we were talking about the next meeting. You're talking about closed session. I have the closed session.
I'm sorry. I was on my closed session. Sorry.
Does everybody have closed session?
I have the closed session.
Okay.
Sorry, my brain was already on December.
No, you're
Okay. I'm going to turn off the YouTube stream. Have we officially adjourned?
Yes, thank you for anybody who's hung out this long watching.
Thank you, families. We are going to adjourn or leave here, go to closed session. We come back here. All we're going to do is adjourn. So, okay. I will.
Wait, so John, can we have a 5-minute break?
Please, let's take 5. It is currently 8:40. Let's go 8:45 in the closed session link. If you have a problem getting in that link, please reach out to me and I'll help you get in there. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Sorry for that.
Peace.